Hello, this is Breakfast with John Kay and Sally Nugent. Conservative MPs are gathering at number 10 this morning as the Prime Minister tries to persuade potential Tory rebels to back the government's Rwanda bill in a vote tonight.
Well, we can speak live to the new Minister for Illegal Migration, Michael Tomlinson. He got that job when Robert Jenrick resigned last week. He now has responsibility for getting the bill through Parliament. Good morning to you, Mr Tomlinson.
John, good morning. Thank you for having me on.
A real risk that this bill could be defeated in the House of Commons tonight. You could, of course, pause things, pull it, not have a vote. So can we be clear at the very beginning? Is this vote definitely going to happen this evening?
Yes, it is, and that's my job. I'm going to be taking this bill through Parliament. Part of my job today will be to be part of that debate. I'm going to be there at about 10 to 7 this evening, if you're still awake and you want to tune in, standing at the dispatch box, making the case for the government that this is the toughest piece of immigration legislation that has ever been tabled, that has ever been laid before Parliament, and that this respectfully listens and responds to the Supreme Court judgment that was set out on the 15th of November and following the treaty that was tabled last week. It builds on that, it shuts down that loophole, and that's the debate we're going to be having this afternoon.
But it wouldn't take many of your own MPs to rebel against it, or even to abstain, for you to lose tonight. Do you concede that that is a possibility, a real possibility?
Listen, it's my aim and my intention to make sure that we win this evening. And if colleagues know me for anything, and for what I've done over the past 8.5 years that I've had the privilege of serving as a Member of Parliament, I hope that colleagues will know that I'm a listening Member of Parliament, that I'm very respectful of other people, and I do respond to concerns as well. That is my modus operandi. That's the way I work, if you like. And that, I hope, is what I'm going to take into this role as Minister. And I've worked with colleagues right across the breadth of our parliamentary party. Actually, it's one of our real strengths of our parliamentary party is that we are such a broad church. And I hope one of my strengths is the ability to listen and to engage constructively right across the parliamentary party.
You're not just one party, though, are you? Just looking at the different factions, Rishi Sunak meeting one of them right now, but you've got the European Research Group within the Conservative Party, the One Nation Caucus, the New Conservatives Group, the Common Sense Group, the Northern Research Group, the Conservative Growth Group. All these different groups want different things from this bill, and Rishi Sunak, in turn, is having to plead with every single one of them. He's not just got one party, has he?
John, we all say, I think you just described the broad church that I was describing a few moments ago. You are right, we are a broad church, but we are all members of the Conservative Party. If there's one thing actually that does unite us, it's the determination to stop the boats. That's the Prime Minister's determination to stop the boats. And that's what this bill will help to do. But
the trouble is, some of those groups don't think it will. I mean, the chair of the ERG, Mark Francois, said on camera yesterday, this wasn't a conversation just in a corridor quietly. He said publicly, right outside Parliament, the feeling very much among us is that the government would be best advised to pull this bill, come up with a revised version that works better than this one, which has so many holes in it. He doesn't think it is going to work.
Listen, respectfully, I've worked with Mark over a number of years. I actually was a member of the ERG, and I was deputy chairman, in fact, of the ERG for a number of years. So I know the concerns, the strong concerns that there are, that Mark and other colleagues have. But my job is to listen respectfully, to understand their concerns, and then to explain how this bill is going to work. Because, John, it will work. What this does is it addresses those very concerns that the Supreme Court set out last month. It will deem Rwanda as safe, not just because we say so, but on the basis of a legally binding international treaty with our respected international partners in Rwanda. That's what the Home Secretary went across to Rwanda to sign last week. The bill was then tabled last week, and that's what we're going to be debating this afternoon. But I do repeat my point. I am, I hope, a respectful and listening colleague. I want to continue that in this ministerial role, and I will listen to colleagues from right across the breadth of our parliamentary party, hopefully addressing each and every one of their concerns and encouraging them, that word again, trying to persuade them to join me in the division lobby this evening.
But even if it squeaks over the line by a few votes tonight, this is Rishi Sunak's flagship piece of legislation. This is what he's staked everything on. It's not a great look, is it?
This is a response to a specific problem, to a specific issue that was raised by the Supreme Court a matter of weeks ago.
But he can't persuade his own MPs.
This is the emergency legislation that was tabled in response to that. This answers the questions and the concerns. You say he can't persuade. Well, actually, let's have that debate. We're going to have that debate in Parliament this afternoon. That's part of the parliamentary process. And you say, what happens if there is only a narrow win? Well, what happens then is that the bill goes through to the committee stage. And that's when we look at the bill line by line. It's actually the rather straightforward, fundamental routine of parliamentary work. It's something that I've been engaged in as a parliamentarian for the last 8.5 years, and that's what I will carry on doing as the Bill Minister, taking it through the House of Commons.
But if it gets through tonight, gets through to the next stage, it might be even tougher then. There might be some MPs who are happy to see it go through at this point, but will never vote for it as it stands in the future.
Listen, governing is hard. To govern is to choose. The Prime Minister has chosen, rightly, that this is the priority, that we must stop the boats. There is a moral imperative that people should not take those perilous journeys across the Channel, the busiest shipping lane in the world. We have seen people dying in having taken those crossings on the boats. What I haven't heard enough of, and what I hope to take to the debate this evening, is that moral case. We must stop the boats. It is a fundamental, and this act, this bill, is part of that piece, and the Prime Minister is determined, and I am determined to support him every way.
You're very keen to tell us that you're very collegiate and you're chatting and embracing everybody and listening to everybody. So if one of your MPs votes against this bill tonight, will they have the party whip withdrawn? Will they be punished?
My job is to ensure that they don't vote against the bill.
OK, but if they don't do, and some of them will, won't they?
John, I don't know, is the honest answer. I can't tell you. I have heard colleagues saying that they're going to be listening to the debate. That is right. That is part of the parliamentary process. That's actually what colleagues on both sides of the House should do. I hope the Labour Party, frankly, listens to the debate. But in terms of our own parliamentary party, I know that they will listen to the debate. And it is my job to persuade them this evening that this is the right bill, that this is a tough piece of legislation, and that this will work. And that's what I'm going to do this evening.
But given how Rishi Sunak has staked everything on it, how central this is to his time as Prime Minister, for his own MPs to vote against it, surely they can't keep the party whip if they vote it down.
John, I don't agree with that. This legislation is actually responding to a Supreme Court judgment that happened a matter of weeks ago. It is emergency legislation built on the back of an internationally binding treaty. It is responding to what the Supreme Court said. Now, I'm a lawyer, I'm a former law officer, I was His Majesty's Solicitor General, and so we listen respectfully to the Supreme Court. The government disagreed, and it's tabled this legislation, and that's the debate we're going to have this afternoon.
Michael Tomlinson, thank you for joining us here on BBC Breakfast.
Thank you so much.
You heard it here. The vote is happening tonight. It's on.
It's definitely on.
It's on.
Yes, and we will, of course, be talking about it on the programme tomorrow. But now it's 7:40.